Welcome to How to Tune Pianos, the hobby, skill, and career of piano tuning. I'm Mark Cerzano, registered piano technician, and often I'll get the question, what kind of tools should I get to learn how to tune a piano? The tools that you use will depend on the method that you're using to tune the piano. So today I'd like to talk about the different methods that you can use to tune a piano, and then from that would come the tools. First of all, there's basically two methods. The oral method, where we use our ears to tune the piano, and the method where we use an ETD or electronic tuning device. In oral tuning, one method is to use a mute strip. It's a roll of felt that is used to mute off the outside strings by sticking the felt mute between the notes on the piano. If you're going to use this method, you would need a sound source, a fork or an electronic source to give you the starting point. You need a hammer to turn the pins, and you need some rubber mutes to mute off different notes, and of course the mute strip. And also some PAPS mutes. The PAPS mute is used to mute strings in the treble section where there's no room for a mute strip. An open unison tuning method is where we tune all three strings of a note clean before we move on and tune the rest of the notes. Let's talk about the differences between tuning with a mute strip and tuning using an open unison tuning method. With a mute strip, we have to mute all but one string for each note. Here you see that the mute strip is muting the outside strings of the trichord, leaving the center string free to vibrate. You can see how the bichords are muted so that there's a single string for each note. Then you would tune that one string, but you would wait until near the end of the tuning before you would remove the mutes and tune the unisons. The good thing is that there's no big requirement to tune clean unisons because you're not going to be using them later on, except for the obvious reason, which is that clean unisons sound the best. However, that's also a big negative because there's no big requirement to tune clean unisons. It lets you off the hook. But this method is good for beginners because it allows for lots of changes to the pitch. However, it's not accurate. Once unisons are tuned, they may drift. This is called a Weinrich drift. Once you tune a single string and then add the other strings and tune a clean unison to that string, the final pitch can be the same, or it could be higher or lower. That's Weinrich drift. It's not good for stability. There's not enough time to catch the drifters. Also, once you tune all those single strings and then remove the mute strip and tune all the other strings, the change in tension over the entire soundboard could cause the soundboard to settle, which could cause the pitch to change. The open unison method is a little different. You tune a single string or a double string. In this case, you can see only a single string is muted. And then you tune the entire unison and use that clean unison as a reference for the other notes. There's a big requirement to tune clean unisons, and that can be difficult. However, it forces you to improve. It's very accurate and precise because any Weinrich drift that is going to occur has already occurred because we're dealing with an open unison instead of just a single string. Tuning unisons early means that if any of them drift during your tuning, there's a better chance that you'll catch them. Also, by tuning all three strings of each note, then you're loading the soundboard fully so there's less settling later on. But there is a learning curve to this method. So what are the tools needed? If you're going to use a single string open unison tuning method, you'll need the usual, your tuning fork, your tuning hammer, and some rubber or felt mutes. And you'll also need a PAPS mute, which helps you tune the upper treble where there's no room for the mute strip. If you're going to use a double string unison tuning method, you just need the rubber or felt wedge mutes, plus the hammer and the tuning fork or sound source. And you may need the PAPS mutes. A handled rubber mute can be used to mute off a single string in the treble section, and it doesn't get in the way. If you're going to use an electronic tuning device, you'll need a tuning hammer and some wedge mutes, but also you'll need a computer, smartphone, or an electronic tuning device. With the computer and the smartphone, you'll need to provide the piano tuning software. Dedicated electronic tuning devices come with their own software built in. So what skills are required for each method? Basically there's three. Listening skills, the ability to tune a note and have it stay put, and the ability to tune clean unisons. There's different requirements for each method. The methods we'll talk about are the mute strip method, the single string open unison method, the double string open unison method, and the electronic tuning device. Obviously, for an oral tuning method, your ear is quite important. The better your ear, the better your tunings will be. For the electronic method, there's a low requirement to have a good ear. In fact, you can be deaf and still use these machines to tune a piano. However, a good tuner will check the electronic tuning device using their ear, but they don't have to unless they are trying for a high quality tuning. It's always important to have good stability when you're tuning a piano. With an oral method, there's a medium requirement using the mute strip, but a very high requirement using the single and double string open unison method, because if you don't have good stability, those unisons are going to drift and then they're not going to be useful to tune the notes that come after. The better your stability, the less corrections you'll have to do to your unisons. And for an electronic tuning method, there's no real requirement for you to have good stability. That requirement is simply the same that you would have in order to do good work. With unisons, using a mute strip, it's again a medium requirement. Simply to have good unisons for your customers is very important, but not required. The open unison method, single string or double string, this is a high requirement, because if you can't get clean unisons, you're going to have trouble using the method. With the electronic method, it's the same. The requirement to have clean unisons is simply to do good work, but there's not a requirement based on the method. The method does not require you to have good unisons, it's just your work ethic. So, which method is best? This is my opinion, and I have decided to teach a course based on this method, and it's the double string unison method, because it forces you to get good at unisons and stability quickly. You know what you have to get good at. The method forces you to get good at those things. Also, it eliminates the Weinrich drift, which can be up to 1 cent sometimes. Weinrich drift is the drift in the final pitch of a unison when you add the other two strings to it. Double string unison also allows for minute pitch changes using unison coloring. It's ultimately the fastest method for me. Since I've been using this method, my speed has been very, very fast. It's a very highly accurate and precise method. Other methods that I've used in the past were never accurate enough for me. When I moved on to a more accurate method, I simply forgot the old way. So my opinion is, if you learn this method first, it'll be the last one you'll have to learn. And I've decided to call this method the Go Ape method, because I believe it to be the most accurate, precise, and efficient oral piano tuning method ever. I've not heard of any method that uses all of these elements. A non-speaking length tension analysis for superior stability and speed. Getting stability is extremely important, and it seems to be very difficult for many students to achieve. This analysis method allows the tuner to achieve superior stability and understand how and why they're getting it. A beat speed windows system allows you to set pitches based on their speeds that they create with intervals, and you don't have to guess anymore where the pitch goes. As long as you can hear the different beat speeds, you'll know exactly where you have to put the pitch. The double string unison method, accurate because it eliminates the Weinrich drift. There's improved feedback, because when you're changing the color of that unison, you get to hear immediately how the force you're applying to the hammer is affecting the pitch. And there's less muting. That means faster tunings. If you're interested in learning more about this method, just click on this button or click on the link that you'll find in the description. Thanks for watching.